Hey everyone, welcome back to Trade Talks. In today's video, we're going to talk about NVIDIA's Q1 earnings. As we all know, NVIDIA has announced its Q1 earnings on May 22nd at 5 p.m. And we already know how the results came out, as we could see the markets pumping up in the pre-market right after the results have been announced. So before we get started, if you like my video, make sure you subscribe and like the video. Let's take a look at the earning reports and analyze the earnings. So NVIDIA has reported its Q1 earnings with an EPS of $6.12 per share with a surprise of 18.6% from previous quarter, which was at $5.16 per share. NVIDIA reported a quarterly revenue of 26 billion, which is up by 18% on a quarter-on-quarter basis and 262% on a year-on-year basis. NVIDIA has also announced a 10-for-1 stock split, which will be effective on June 7th. So for people who don't know what a stock split is and how a stock split works, let me explain it to you. So a stock split is generally defined by a split ratio, which is 10:1 in our case. So what happens is for every single share you hold, you'll be getting 10 shares in exchange for the single share you have. So what happens to the price when the stock split happens? So so the price will be divided by 10. Let's say you bought NVIDIA share today at $1,000. So after the stock split, you'll be having 10 shares in your account, but the invested amount would be the same $1,000, but the price of NVIDIA would be divided by 10 because the stock split is 10:1. So now the new price of NVIDIA would be $100 and you'll be having 10 of them, so the invested amount would be the same. So that's how stock split works. Back to the earnings and analyze the earnings more. So NVIDIA has also raised its dividend by 150% from 4 cents a share to 10 cents a share, which will be 1 cent per share after the split. Let's take a look at the numbers now. So as we can see, there are two reported numbers here, GAAP and the non-GAAP. So we'll be mainly focusing on the non-GAAP. So the only difference between GAAP and non-GAAP is that in non-GAAP, a company is not required to include few expenses like non-cash expenses. Let's not get more into the details of GAAP and non-GAAP. Let's just focus on the numbers here. So let's take a look at the revenue. So as we can see here, the revenue has been increasing. So all the numbers here are in millions, so don't get confused with 26 billion and 26,000 million. Okay, they're both the same. Okay, so there is a significant increase in revenue, and as we can also see, the operating expenses is also increasing on a quarter-on-quarter and a year-on-year basis too. So, which is a good sign. You might be wondering how it is a good sign if expenses are increasing. So, let's just understand what operating expenses means. So, consider a business. So, if a business is required to have more and more money as time progresses to keep the business running, which means the business is expanding. So they need more and more money to keep the business running. That is how this would help us understand there is a lot of growth potential in NVIDIA. So let's take a look at the net income. So the net income is nothing but the profit. So NVIDIA is profitable on quarter and year basis too. And the EPS has also been increasing on a quarter-on-quarter and year-on-year basis, so which is a good sign. So the earnings are very good for NVIDIA in Q1. So let's take a look at what's NVIDIA's outlook on second quarter in this year. So NVIDIA is expecting the revenue to grow up to 28 billion from 26 billion dollars, which is achievable. Now let's take a look at the record revenue that has been generated from data center, which is $22.6 billion. So data center is nothing but a computing solution platform, which is mainly used by large enterprises and supercomputing centers and AI industries. As NVIDIA is one of the leading AI chip maker, it has generated $22.6 billion in revenue in this quarter, which is a very good sign as NVIDIA progresses towards AI industries. And NVIDIA has also reported a revenue of 329 million in automotive and robotics sector, which is up by 17% from previous quarter and up by 11% from previous year, which is also a good sign. I want to conclude by saying that the Q1 results are higher than the expectations of investors, and Nvidia has more potential if it continues to report earnings in this manner. Um, and the financials are looking very good with Nvidia. Despite Nvidia's strong fundamentals and its growth potential, it is still undervalued based on its free cash flows. And with Nvidia performing really well from the past couple quarters, I can see there is a huge growth potential for Nvidia to grow in the tech sector. With the stock split that is going to happen on June 7th, I can see more and more retail investors interested in buying Nvidia. So there is a huge growth potential for Nvidia in the near future.